Leveling in Last Epoch feels like mapping in Path of Exile. The feeling of leveling in Last Epoch is very good. From the moments that you're starting your character and whenever you're trying to go through all the content, from the first hours, you feel like your character can do something, you feel like your character does pretty good damage, you're forced to do the mechanics that monsters are trying to apply to you, but you still feel that you can do things and you don't feel like a worthless piece of shit. You do have a bunch of choices in terms of how you can build your character. You do have a bunch of choices about how you want to itemize your character. Items worth your attention and they do increase your power. You do have a rotational gameplay that still is not heavily cooldown reliant, but you have more than one skill to use. You have your skills that give you defenses, you have active skills that you need to use whenever, for example, enemies use their mechanics, you can block their skills with some active abilities that will give you defenses, that will maybe heal you, that will maybe restore your prime resource. You can, throughout your leveling, from the first moments, you can tweak how much resources you spent on your skills, how you want to specialize your skills in terms of it being AoE oriented or single target oriented. And yes, so this is basically the things that you do in endgame in Path of Exile. Whenever you're mapping, you feel that your character is good, but it's not one-shotting God. So yeah, it feels like an early mapping in Path of Exile. Your character is pretty good. You can manage most of your enemies fine. Some enemies really hit you pretty hard. You need to dodge most of the things that flies towards you. And all the itemization feels relevant and you feel good about acquiring new gear. This is how I would have that's how I will describe Last Epoch's lower levels, and how I would describe Path of Exile's early leveling for me. For sure, I don't really like whenever you are basically one-shotting everything and you don't really need to look at anything in the game. I know that I'm not playing Path of Exile how most people do, because I do play it in SSF. I despise gameplay of Trade League whenever you're hitting your maps, and from the currency that you've obtained throughout the campaign, you're probably more than good to one-shot every single thing in your lower tier maps, and you're free to go and you're free to farm hundreds of chaoses per hour without any problem. And yeah, nothing is really challenging, and you work to one-shot everything, and the only possible gameplay that you feel good is one-shotting. I know that that's the most big vocal part of the game, big part of people who play Path of Exile continuously, and that's maybe not the whole majority, but probably 50% and more of people like to play the game this way. I don't really understand them that much. I'm not in their camp, but still, I would agree with them that low-level gameplay of Path of Exile sucks, and it doesn't really feel good. And even if developers are trying to give you a sense of challenge and give you sense of accomplishment on those lower levels, many problems with systems and with balancing of stats and skills and gems inside of the game don't really allow for you to have such an interesting low-level experience whenever you feel challenged and you feel rewarded. It doesn't really work that much, especially whenever the content of leveling, whenever the content of campaign was replayed by players for hundreds of times, and you either need to freshen it up way more for it to feel better, or you need to give people more freedom whenever they're leveling their characters, or just not make it such a slow and sometimes powerless experience. So yeah, Last Epoch definitely gets this in the right way, and I admire it. I love how game feels. Yeah, and it's smooth from the first moments that you interact with the game. And in my opinion, it's definitely way better for you to have such an experience that is not totally casual and that is not totally mindless, but it is way better for you to have an experience like this to attract new players and to have relevance for leveling for your old players too. Because nobody likes to go from very good character to very bad character. And yet again, you can progress on your first character, get some good items get some good uniques from your journey, transfer them for your new character, for your second character, and then play with those items. But that's a weird way for you to make a good journey, because that means that there is no item progression for your second character for maybe 5 to 10 hours. You're just using, yes, the gameplay itself will feel pretty good. You will one-shot enemies, you will have way easier time, but you wouldn't really itemize your character. Itemization is done. You do have most of the things that you need. Your character is stoked. And I wouldn't really agree with how GGG have this opinion. And I know that they've stated that they think this way about the early leveling, that your first character should be rough. And then with your first character, you're working on gear. You do have more currency available for you, which means that you can craft more items for the next for your next character. You have your leveling uniques. But to be honest, leveling uniques, I don't feel that you being required to have leveling uniques in order for your leveling experience gameplay wise to feel good is a good thing. I think that leveling uniques are cool, but they have to be a cherry on top and not the thing that makes your gameplay at least somewhat resemble parts of the game that you like. So you like mapping, and not many people like leveling, because leveling don't feel like mapping. It feels way worse, and you don't really have such an interesting item progression while you're leveling, because you're either scraping the bottom of the barrel whenever you're leveling first time, and you don't really have any choice. You're just trying to get the okay-ish gear on yourself in order for you to progress at least, or you do have completely beast gear, completely best things, and you one-shot everything anyways, and you're not really gearing your character, you're not really looking at anything that drops on your second and further characters. That's the thing that scares me, that not scares me away from leveling, but just I rarely do I level multiple characters in one league, and rarely do I do it gladly in Path of Exile. But I will look more into Last Epoch, and I will have to say more after some time. Thanks for watching. Bye.